It was raining that Friday. I remember because I almost didn't come home right away. The streets were slick with the kind of drizzle that makes everything look blurred, car lights, windows, thoughts. I had stayed a bit late at the office, fixing reports that no one would read, and I was thinking about picking up something for dinner. But then Emily texted me around 6, "Lily's drawing again. She says she made you something." That was the last message she ever sent. When I pulled into the driveway 2 hours later, the porch light was on, and the front door was slightly open. My first thought was that Emily had let the cat out again. The second thought never finished forming, because the moment I stepped inside, my life split in two, before and after. The smell hit me first. Metallic, thick, unmistakable. The kind that clings to your clothes even after you shower. The living room was dim, one lamp still flickered from a bad connection we'd never fixed. There was a trail of red across the hardwood floor. And there, in the middle of the room, was Lily. 5 years old. Sitting cross-legged, staring at nothing. Her hands, her pajamas, her face, all smeared with blood. For a second, I couldn't move. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Then instinct took over. I dropped to my knees, grabbed her shoulders, and checked for wounds. She wasn't hurt. She blinked at me once, slowly, as if I were a stranger. "Lily, where's Mommy?" Nothing. Just that blank stare. Her lips trembled but no sound came out. I looked around, broken glass, an overturned chair, the picture frame from our wedding shattered near the fireplace. No Emily. No phone. No purse. The back door was cracked open, letting in a thread of cold air. I called 911, my voice shaking so hard I could barely get the words out. "My wife's missing. There's blood, my daughter's covered in it, please, please send someone." The police came fast. Flashing lights, boots on floors, latex gloves. They moved through our home like it wasn't ours anymore. They asked me to wait outside while they secured the scene. I remember standing on the porch, hugging Lily to my chest while she stayed completely silent, her eyes locked on the door. Neighbors started to gather. I could see their faces behind curtains, their mouths whispering stories before anyone knew the facts. Did he do it? Was it a break-in? Where's the body? That night became a blur of lights and tape and questions. They took Lily to the hospital for examination. The doctor said the blood wasn't hers, they confirmed it matched Emily's type. That fact alone felt like someone had punched a hole through my chest. The detectives asked the same questions 100 ways. When did I last see her? Did we argue? Did she have enemies? Was there another man? I gave them everything. Her friends' names, her last text, even the grocery list still pinned to the fridge. Every time I answered, I kept expecting someone to walk in and tell me it was all a mistake. Days turned into weeks. The searches expanded, woods, rivers, abandoned cabins. Nothing. No body, no ransom, no witnesses. Just an open file labeled, "Missing Person, Emily Reynolds." Lily stopped speaking entirely. The doctors called it selective mutism, a psychological response to trauma. They said it might resolve with time, but deep down I knew something had frozen inside her that night. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at the back door, her tiny fingers gripping the edge of her blanket until her knuckles went white. I quit sleeping. I went through our house like a detective, retracing steps, testing door locks, photographing stains on the carpet. I watched our wedding video every night, memorizing Emily's face like it might offer clues I'd missed. Her laughter. The way she tilted her head when she was teasing me. The sound of her voice saying, "Mark, you're too serious." The police eventually stopped calling. Their visits became less frequent, their tone more distant. "We're doing what we can, Mr. Reynolds." They said it like a script. My colleagues at the firm avoided me in hallways. Except one, Derek Vaughn. He'd been my coworker for years, the kind of guy everyone liked instantly. Charming, always had the right joke. He started checking in on me, bringing over takeout, helping me file the endless paperwork that came with a missing person case. I appreciated it, at first. But sometimes I caught him looking at me oddly, like he wanted to say something and didn't. 5 months after Emily vanished, he brought me a bottle of bourbon and said, "You've got to let the cops handle it, man. Don't destroy yourself." I tried to listen. But I couldn't stop searching. I joined online forums, read case studies, talked to private investigators I couldn't afford. Nothing. Emily's name faded from the news, then from people's conversations, until only Lily and I still said it, or rather, only I did. Every year after that was a calendar of silence. Lily grew but didn't speak. Her teachers were kind, but she remained withdrawn. Some nights I'd find her sitting in the living room, staring at the exact spot where I'd found her that night. And then came the 5th anniversary. It was raining again, almost the same kind of drizzle. I'd taken the day off work, though work barely meant anything by then. I spent most of the morning cleaning the living room, the same room that had ruined us. The bloodstains were long gone, but I could still see them if I looked too long. At noon, I sat at the kitchen table with the old photo album. Lily was drawing quietly nearby, her pencil scratching paper in slow, careful lines. I whispered, not expecting a response. "You remember her, don't you, Lily?" No answer. I turned another page, the photo of Emily holding Lily at the zoo, both smiling. My throat tightened. She loved you so much. The silence was heavy, but I'd learned to live with it. Until that afternoon. When I came back from taking out the trash, Lily was sitting in the same chair, staring at the newspaper that had come in the mail. Her hand trembled as she pointed to a photo on the front page, a man I didn't recognize. A headline about a businessman arrested in Missouri for fraud. Her lips parted. Her voice, thin and hoarse, broke through the quiet that had ruled our lives for 5 years. "Daddy," she whispered. "That's the man who took Mommy." I froze. The newspaper slipped from my hands. For a long moment, I just stared at her, unable to speak. Because in 5 years, I'd forgotten what my daughter's voice even sounded like. And now, it was the sound that would change everything. For several seconds after Lily spoke, I couldn't move. I just stared at her lips, barely believing the sound had come from them. Her voice was higher than I remembered, older somehow, but fragile, like the words might break before leaving her mouth. "What did you say?" I asked quietly. She didn't blink. "That's him," she said again, her small finger trembling on the page. "That's the man who took Mommy." The newspaper lay between us, a half-folded piece of history about someone else's scandal, Thomas Hale, a corporate executive indicted for fraud and money laundering. His mugshot was grainy, but clear enough. Mid-40s, short beard, expensive haircut gone wild since his arrest. I'd never seen his face before. "Lily," I said carefully, "are you sure?" She nodded once. "He was in our house. That night." I wanted to believe she was wrong. That trauma and time had blurred the edges of memory. But she spoke with the same calm certainty Emily used to have when she said things she didn't need to prove. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat at the table with the newspaper spread wide. My coffee went cold. The clock ticked so loud it hurt my ears. Thomas Hale, CEO of Hale Industries, arrested in Missouri after a federal investigation. No mention of violence or kidnappings, just fraud, corporate schemes, the kind of crime that ruined bank accounts, not families. But something about the photo dug into me. When I called the detective who'd handled Emily's case, he was polite but dismissive. "Mr. Reynolds, kids that age often misremember faces. It's been 5 years. Don't put too much weight on it." "I'm not asking for much," I said. "Just check if there's any record linking him to my wife. A call, an address, anything." He sighed audibly through the line. "If we find anything relevant, I'll let you know." He wouldn't. I knew that tone, the bureaucratic kindness that means go away. So I did what I'd learned to do best, I started looking myself. I dug out Emily's old laptop, long untouched. Most of her files were family photos, recipes, half-written emails. But buried in a folder labeled Work Invoices, there were scanned receipts from a local printing company, orders placed under both her name and her work email. I didn't recognize the projects, but one invoice caught my eye, Hale Industries Marketing Project, April 10, 2018. Emily had been a freelance designer back then, taking contracts here and there. She'd mentioned a new corporate client around that time, but she never said the name. I remembered joking that maybe she'd finally landed a big one. So Hale wasn't random. He'd known her. I traced the company online, its sleek website now replaced with a federal seizure notice. A few archive pages showed photos of board members, including Hale himself. But there was another photo that made my stomach twist, an event picture from a charity gala. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, stood Derek Vaughn, my old coworker. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred. Same jawline, same posture. He was smiling, holding a drink, standing not far from Hale. That night, I didn't sleep at all. My mind wouldn't let me. The connection didn't make sense yet, but it was there, pulsing under the surface. Derek and Hale. Emily and a freelance project. The night she vanished. The next morning, I left Lily with her teacher and drove to the courthouse to get a copy of Hale's public arrest file. Buried in the documents was an address, an old corporate branch in Springfield, Missouri. The same place where Hale had been detained. I packed a small bag, left a note for Lily's babysitter, and drove 8 hours straight. The office building was abandoned, gray concrete, shattered windows, a faded sign still reading Hale Industries. But a diner across the street was open. I showed the waitress the mugshot. She nodded slowly. "Oh, sure. Used to see him all the time before the feds came. Him and some woman, pretty, brown hair, quiet. Came in every morning for coffee. Said she was helping with some designs or something. My breath caught. Was her name Emily? She frowned. Didn't catch her name. But she seemed sad. The last time I saw her, she looked like she'd been crying. Then she stopped coming. That detail hit like a cold slap. Emily had been here. She'd been alive after leaving the house. Which meant maybe, just maybe, she hadn't been taken. I drove to the police department in Springfield. The detective in charge of Hale's case was a middle-aged man with tired eyes named Ramirez. He was polite, but skeptical when I explained my story. "I understand, Mr. Reynolds," he said. "But unless we have direct evidence linking your wife to Mr. Hale's criminal activity, there's not much we can do. You're talking about a different jurisdiction and an old missing person case." "Did Hale ever mention a woman named Emily Reynolds?" I asked. Ramirez looked through a few files, shook his head. "Not that I recall. But there was a note in one of the interviews. He mentioned a woman named Anna who helped him with creative projects before things went south." Anna. A name like a disguise. I thanked him and left, my mind spinning. On the way out, I stopped by a small office building next to the police station. The secretary there was packing boxes. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair. When I showed her Emily's photo, she hesitated, the kind of pause that says yes but doesn't want to. "She looks familiar," she admitted. But her hair was darker. And she went by Anna Lewis, I think. Worked for a few weeks doing design layouts. Then one day she just didn't show up. She said it like it was normal. Like people vanish all the time. The drive home felt endless. Every mile between Missouri and our house tightened the knot in my chest. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on again. Lily was waiting in the window, her small face pressed to the glass. I walked in and hugged her without a word. That night, she had another nightmare. I woke to her screaming from her room, the first real scream I'd heard from her since she was 5. When I reached her bed, she was shaking all over, her eyes wide open. "Lily," I whispered, holding her. "It's okay, I'm here." She clutched my arm and whispered through sobs, "Don't let him take mommy again." I froze. "Who, sweetheart?" She didn't answer. Just kept repeating the same phrase until she fell back asleep. Downstairs, I poured a glass of water and stared out the window. Across the street, the rain had started again, the same steady drizzle that had haunted me since the night Emily disappeared. But now there was something new beneath it, the faint sound of hope mixed with dread. Because for the first time in 5 years, I had a direction. And I wasn't going to stop until I knew the truth. The next few weeks were a blur of half-sleep and late-night searching. I couldn't let it go. The name Anna Lewis burned in my head like a hidden truth that refused to stay buried. By then, I'd stopped pretending that this was something the police could fix. I'd stopped pretending that Emily's disappearance was random. Too many coincidences, too many familiar names. Hale. Missouri. Derek. I hadn't spoken to Derek in nearly 2 years. He'd left our company shortly after Emily vanished and started his own consulting business. The last time I saw him, he'd told me he was moving on from all the sadness. That phrase used to comfort me. Now it made my stomach turn. One Friday evening, I decided to see him. He still lived in the same house, nice, suburban, with a new car parked in the driveway. He opened the door with a smile that froze halfway when he saw me. "Mark? Wow, it's been ages." I forced a smile. "Yeah. Mind if I come in?" Inside, everything looked staged, not lived in. A bowl of perfect fruit, family photos that looked professionally arranged. His wife, Melissa, was upstairs putting their toddler to bed. We sat in the living room. I told him about Lily speaking again, about the man in the newspaper, about the Missouri connection. He listened, nodding too often, eyes flicking away whenever I mentioned Hale's name. When I asked if he knew Hale personally, he said, maybe from some networking event. You know how it is. But Derek had never been the networking type. He hated business dinners. That was the first red flag. After a few minutes of small talk, I left. But the feeling in my gut wouldn't quiet down. That night, I pulled out an old box of photos from my office days. There it was, the annual company Christmas party, 2017. I was in the center, Emily on my arm. And behind us, blurry but visible, Derek talking to someone in a suit. I scanned the image, zoomed in, and froze. The man he was talking to was Thomas Hale. The photo was timestamped 4 months before Emily disappeared. I sat there for hours staring at it. My hands were shaking. The room felt smaller with every minute. I didn't sleep that night. I waited until morning, drove to the office storage building, the one where Derek had rented a small unit years ago for extra documents. I still had an old spare key he'd given me when we were friends, back when I used to help him with overtime projects. Inside the unit, dust floated like ghosts in the weak light. Boxes stacked neatly, labeled in Derek's handwriting. I opened the first one, invoices, fake company names, corporate seals. The second box held old USB drives, disposable phones, and a manila folder marked Hale. My pulse hammered as I opened it. Inside were printouts of emails, Derek to Hale, Hale to Derek. Discussions about accounts, deliverables, keeping the wife quiet. One line burned into me. She found out. If she talks, we both go down. My hands went numb. Emily must have discovered something, maybe during her design work for Hale's company. And Derek, my friend, my colleague, the man who comforted me at her memorial service, had been part of it. I barely made it home that night. My mind kept replaying everything he'd ever said, every time he'd offered help, every drink we'd shared when I was breaking apart. Around midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, expecting a telemarketer or another detective dead end. But what I heard made the air leave my lungs. Mark? It was her voice. Soft, hesitant, but undeniably hers. Emily. I couldn't speak for a few seconds. I just listened, terrified that if I said her name, she'd disappear again. Emily? Is it really you? She hesitated. Please stop looking for me, she whispered. It's over. Just protect Lily. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone until the screen dimmed. The call log showed a prepaid number registered in St. Louis, Missouri. I barely slept. By dawn, I'd packed a bag, printed the records I'd found in Derek's storage, and left Lily with my sister. I told her I had to handle something for work. She didn't ask what. The drive to St. Louis took 9 hours. I stopped only for gas, running on caffeine and adrenaline. When I arrived, I started checking small motels near the area code where the call originated. The third one on the list, a faded yellow building off the highway, had a record for a woman who'd checked in multiple times under the name Anna Lewis. She stayed about a month last year, the clerk told me. Quiet lady. Paid in cash. Had this faraway look, like she wasn't really here. Do you know where she went after that? I asked. He shrugged. Said she was volunteering at a clinic downtown. The Freewell Community Clinic was small, tucked between a laundromat and a grocery store. I waited outside, watching people go in and out until I saw her. Emily. She was thinner, her hair darker, dyed almost black, and she moved differently, slower. But it was her. I knew from the way she held her hands, the same way she used to when she was nervous. I wanted to run to her, to say her name, to shake the world back into place. But something in me said wait. I followed her from a distance as she walked down the street. She stopped at a bus stop, sat, and pulled out a worn paperback. No ring on her finger. No sign she recognized anything around her. Finally, I walked closer. My voice cracked when I spoke. Emily? She turned her head slowly. Her eyes met mine, blank and distant, like she was staring through fog. Then her lips parted, and she fainted. When she woke, she was in a hospital bed. The nurse told me she'd had a panic response triggered by shock. When I went into the room, she looked terrified. I don't know you, she whispered. Please, don't hurt me. It felt like the world tilted sideways. Doctors said she likely had dissociative amnesia, memory loss brought on by trauma. They said recovery could take months, even years. That night, I sat by her bed, holding her hand while she slept. I wanted to believe that she'd come back to me, to Lily, to the life we lost. But I also knew one thing with absolute clarity, Derek Vaughn had done this. And I wasn't going to let him walk away from it. The next few weeks blurred into each other, hospital corridors, therapy sessions, blank stares. Emily, or Anna as everyone called her, didn't remember me, didn't remember Lily, didn't even recognize her own handwriting when I showed her letters she'd written years ago. The doctors explained it like this: the brain protects itself. When the trauma is too much, it builds a wall. They said it might take time, maybe a trigger, maybe a familiar sound or face. I didn't care how long it took. I wasn't leaving her again. Every day, I'd sit by her bed, talking quietly. I told her stories, how we met at a photography class, how she hated small talk, how she used to paint tiny stars on Lily's nails because plain pink is too serious. She'd listen with polite confusion, her smile kind but distant. Lily drew pictures for her. At first, she didn't want to go near the hospital. The first visit, she hid behind my leg. Then she saw Emily sitting there, thinner, quieter, but still her mother. She walked forward and handed her a crumpled drawing of 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small. Beneath it, she'd written, "Us." Emily stared at it for a long time, her hand trembling slightly. "It's beautiful," she said softly, not realizing she'd just said the same thing she used to say every night before tucking Lily in. Something flickered in her eyes. Just a flicker, but it was there. The next day, the doctors agreed to let her stay at a rehabilitation facility near our town. They called it familiar exposure. I called it bringing her home. When we arrived back at the house, I half expected her to panic, to see the place as something dark. Instead, she just walked slowly through each room, touching objects like she was testing their temperature. The kitchen. The hallway. The living room. When she reached the spot where I'd found Lily 5 years ago, she froze. Her breathing quickened. She whispered, almost to herself, "There was blood." I felt my throat close. "Yes," I said quietly. "Yours." She pressed her hand to her forehead, eyes shutting tight. "A man was here?" I heard Lily scream. That night, she didn't sleep. Neither did I. She paced the house like she was chasing shadows. Then, sometime around 3 a.m., she came into my room, pale and shaking. "I saw him," she said. "He came here that night." "Who?" "Derek." My heart started pounding. Her voice grew steadier, pieces clicking into place. "He said he needed to talk. That something went wrong with the project. He looked scared. He said Hale was in trouble, that the police might come, and that I should delete all my files." She took a deep breath, eyes distant. "I told him I wouldn't cover up fraud. That I'd go to the police." He grabbed my arm. I pushed him. He hit me. She touched the back of her head instinctively. Then, I fell. I remember Lily crying. Then darkness. I clenched my fist so hard my nails bit into my palms. "He left you for dead." She nodded slowly. "When I woke up, I was in a field. It was cold. I couldn't remember who I was. A man found me and took me to a hospital. They said my name was Anna Lewis because of the necklace I was wearing. It had an engraving, AL. My initials." A sick, hollow sound left my chest. Everything made sense now: Hale's company, Derek's panic, the staged crime scene. He tried to erase her to save himself. The next morning, I went straight to the police. This time, I wasn't brushed off. The evidence I'd found in Derek's storage unit, combined with Emily's partial memory and Hale's existing criminal case, was enough to reopen the investigation. Detective Ramirez flew in from Missouri. He listened carefully, flipping through the files. When I showed him the emails between Derek and Hale, he nodded slowly. "We'll bring him in," he said. The arrest came quietly, almost anticlimactically. Derek didn't resist. He looked tired, worn down, like a man who'd been waiting for this day. When I saw him in the interrogation room through the glass, he wouldn't look at me. Ramirez asked him direct questions, about the money, about Hale, about Emily. For a long time, he said nothing. Then finally, he sighed. "She was going to ruin everything," he said. "Hale promised it was clean. He lied. She found the emails. I just wanted to scare her, make her stop. I didn't mean to," he trailed off. "I thought she was dead." I didn't say a word. I just stared at him until the guards led him away. Hale, already serving time, agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. The details that came out were worse than I'd imagined: a web of money laundering through fake contracts, some signed using Emily's stolen credentials. Derek had used her freelance work to legitimize fraudulent invoices. When she discovered it, he panicked. The trial lasted months. Emily testified from behind closed doors, trembling but steady. Lily sat in the back with me, holding my hand. She didn't look away once. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, there was no celebration. Just quiet relief. The kind that feels like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Afterward, life didn't return to normal. Not really. You don't rebuild something like this, you learn to live among the ruins until they start feeling like home again. Emily's memory didn't come back all at once. It returned in fragments: the smell of her favorite coffee, the way Lily's laugh used to sound, the humming of the washing machine late at night. Some days, she still woke up unsure of where she was. But she remembered enough. Enough to hold Lily, to say her name, to mean it. One evening, 6 months later, we stood on the porch together watching Lily chase fireflies. The air was thick with summer and the sound of crickets. Emily turned to me, eyes soft but certain. "I remember," she said quietly. "What?" "That night. The blood. The fear. You holding me in the hospital years before, when Lily was born. Everything. It's all coming back." I felt something tighten in my chest: grief, relief, love, everything all at once. She took my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You have nothing to be sorry for," I said. "You came back. That's all that matters." She smiled, a real smile this time, the kind that reached her eyes. "Then let's start over." The next morning, Lily came downstairs with a drawing, 3 stick figures again, but this time the word underneath wasn't us. It was home. For a long time, I stood there just looking at it, my throat burning. 5 years of silence. 5 years of searching, guilt, anger, and sleepless nights. And now, this, a quiet morning, sunlight filtering through the curtains, the sound of my daughter humming in the kitchen, my wife's footsteps upstairs. People think closure is dramatic, a bang, a confrontation, an ending that erases pain. It's not. It's quieter. It's the sound of someone you thought you lost saying good morning. It's realizing the house doesn't feel haunted anymore. I don't know if Emily will ever remember everything. Maybe that's for the best. Some things are better left in fragments. But as I watch Lily run into her arms, laughing, I know one thing for certain. For 5 years, I lived in silence. Now, even the quiet feels alive again.